pups and I, we're out in the garage. Everybody else is sick inside the house. They're just taking a nap and got some kind of bug going around. But anyway, I'm gonna start opening up this package that we got from our friends over at 9 Lives Racing. And I'm gonna set you guys up, open this box up, and we'll see what we got inside. So I'm pretty glad that they did a pretty good job packaging these, especially with these wooden end plates. When I pulled up to the house, I noticed that the box looked like it had been dropped. So I'm glad that they had that. Everything else seems to be pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and just unwrap it a little bit more, maybe take these end plates off, and I think we'll get started on building this thing. So I'm excited, looking good. So because I'm building this thing to Class XB rules, they have a couple statements in there about where the wing can mount. One of the statements is that it can extend 10 inches off of the body. It can't be more than 6 inches higher than the highest point of the car. And you know, it can't be wider than your body, which I've already measured the body, and fender to fender back here is 68.5 inches. With that being said, the wing is 68 inches. It fits within that measurement. And now I am on the Facebook page trying to figure out how far I can stick this wing back. Some people are saying measure like 13.5 inches back from here, and that's the start of your mount. There is an offset. I'm gonna set this wing up real quick and see how far offset that would be. Back here. What worries me though is with the wing on, you know, it's going to stick out to about here. It's going to be past that center line. Actually, what I'm going to do is go ahead and mark the ground. That way I can, I'll use a plumb bob, mark the perimeter of the body, and we'll go from there. So this is the furthest point of the body. I'm just going to put a mark on the ground right here. So that's right in the center line. Don't plan for this car to move much. But yeah, so that's my center point. That's as far back as I can go, I think, in the rules, but I am gonna verify, and we'll move forward with that. So now what I'm basically gonna do is I'm gonna put the end plates onto the wing. I also need to remove the trunk lid to make all this working on this a little bit easier. So removing the trunk is a couple 10 millimeters. I'll go ahead and get started on that right now. Now, luckily on this trunk lid, it's never been repainted, and I don't think it's ever been removed. I'll have to remark that because I just moved the car. Anyway, so the good thing about this trunk lid is on these marks and on here, you can kind of see the pattern where the trunk was. So we don't have to worry about that too much. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put these uprights on now that I removed the trunk. From what I can tell, these uprights go on the outside of the wing mounts. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these started and we'll get going. So now that we got the uprights mounted, we're gonna go ahead and do a little test fit and see where on the wing I can put it on the car. So now basically what I need to do is I'll go get Abby, and then I'll put the plumb bob down here. I just need to get it as far back as possible. I also need to make sure that the dual element doesn't stick out further than the main element. But right now, I think this is about where it's gonna be. All right, another update. I went ahead and measured out on numerous points here. Basically what I'm gonna do is Abby's gonna come out and I'm gonna set up the wing at a couple of locations, drop the plumb bob from the back of the wing, and then I'm just gonna have her mark where the front of that end plate or the mounts are, and then I'll be able to use them on both sides. I'll just make sure that the mounts are the same distance from this point back, and then we'll be able to start drilling holes. So while I'm waiting for Abby, I decided in order to properly mount this thing, I need to have the wing set up as is. So this is a double Deuce kit, and when I was looking at it, looking at the Facebook Live that Johnny did, I guess it was a V1 kit. So I wanted to, I did some finagling and basically I just made it work. But this is how the bracket's gonna go. So this is the leading edge of the wing. You know, you can tell by it being a larger section. And then this is the tail. And this is the way the bracket needs to go on. So there's 3 different types of bolts. You have this countersunk bolt, a cap, Allen cap, and then the button cap down there. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this, but I wanted to show you guys, it looks backwards from how you would think. You would think this would go up front, just the way it looks, and the way he describes it is this long piece is gonna be on the bottom. I guess on V2 it's a little bit different, but this is what I seem to have found out works. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started, and I'll show you what it looks like with the end plates on. So when I'm gonna put this this dual element piece in, this bolt fits into this hole. If you can see where my finger's blocking, and that's gonna act as your pivot point for that second element. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. So I also had to go in with a 5/16 drill bit because the powder coating on this end plate was a little too big for this bolt head, but now I have it sandwiched in there, and you can see it pivots around that bolt pretty good. And now I'm gonna go ahead and throw the other bolts in here. I'm gonna go ahead and set it at the lowest drag position, and we'll go from there. All right, so I just measured in order to keep the back of the wing with the dual element, which is the furthest point, even with this or slightly forward of it, the front of the wing upright is going to be right here at the 9-inch mark. Again, that's measured from, I set the edge of the tape measure right in that crease, measured back. So for XB rules with a dual element kit, I'm going to say 9 inches back. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Basically, I'm going to take those spacers, put them in there, and then mark out the holes. If I can, I might actually do like 2 sets of holes. That way I can make this wing, you know, a little bit further back if I wanted to for other racing. But for right now, we're going to do it at 9 inches. So here's my bolt breakdown. Again, I took that this bracket and set it up right at the shorter end here. Is about the same offset as what the front of the wing, the upright is. So I set that right there. There is a slight curvature to the trunk at this point, so I just set it up to kind of hang out in the middle and then mark those holes. I also came back here, and if I had the center line hole right at the 14-inch mark, that's about as far back as I would want the wing. I don't think that the upright can go much further back, but that's where I'm at right now. I am going to drill probably just the XB rules wing mounts right now, and we'll get it started. All right, so I drilled the holes, used a 1/8-inch bit to start off, and then I stepped it up 2 times just because this first layer is actually pretty tough to get through. After it bites into that, it gets really soft. So anyway, went ahead and bolted up. I'm pretty certain that the fat part goes towards the front of the car. And the way I look at it is I think the trunk comes more center towards the rear. Anyway, so I have these just finger tight right now, and now I'm gonna go ahead and try putting the wing on here, and that's when I'll do the final tightening of this. I'm sorry, I don't have like GoPro just set up. It's charging right now because it's died. Again, never mind, I lied. I am gonna set up the GoPro and we'll mount this thing up right now. Let's see if I can do this by myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some front bolts in there. And again, I'm just keeping these like finger tight, but you know, still tight. What I'm trying to do is make sure that the wing is in the mounts enough to where they're centered, and then I will go ahead and tighten these down inside the car. But I gotta make sure the wing is good first. So here we go. Looks pretty good overall. There you go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these bolts down and secure these uprights to the chassis. All right, it's all mounted up. One thing you have to do, I guess they don't do any finish work after they get these end plates probably powder coated or painted. You got to go in and drill these holes out. They are so tight, especially on the dual element stuff. These, they have some slop in them and adjustment, so those are good. But this, for the dual element kit and for the pivot too, you have to come back and drill through, kind of get those holes, give some tolerance. These were kind of a pain in the butt. One of them slid right on, you basically slide them on from the end, and then the other one was a pain in the butt. I basically had to tap it on with a rubber mallet, and then once it got started, it slid on pretty well. You can see this one's pretty loose, and this one, I mean, it requires a lot more force. But anyway, wing is mounted, it's tight. Now what we need to do is cut the trunk. So I'm gonna do some measuring and take a measurement of this width here and how far forward and backward it is. I don't think I'm gonna be able to open and close this trunk with the class rules of how far forward this has to be, but you know, I really don't do anything back here at all. I have a main battery switch inside the car. So, yep, that's that. I'm gonna start doing some measuring and just try to figure this thing out. All right, so we got our plumb bob back out because I just wanted to verify it's making contact with the bumper. And right when it starts making contact, there, you can see we have probably a ½ inch or so. So we are good by the rules. It's spot on to that rear fender. So before I got too far, I just wanted to verify. So yeah, we're pretty close. I think if we went back, you know, another probably 2 inches or so on this mount, which is where it seems like everybody else was going. I heard 13.5 for V1 and then 12 or 12.5 for V2, and I have V2. So it makes sense. Right now it's just sitting on there. It's even worse if it goes down, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get this mounted underneath on the bottom side of the wing and then start marking it out. So I saw this, Justin Peachy's got a Corvette, he was at Nationals, and I saw that he was loading up his car like this. So basically, he just had a pin on the front screw mount, and then he left the back as kind of just a pivot point, so he can still open and close his trunk. So I'm gonna give that a try, and we'll see if it works. it's nice and close, but you can still do it. So let's take a look. So right now it's hitting, but you have some movement with the adjustment right there. And right now its only hang up is that it's still on there. Now, we can see, we can get a rough idea now that I know how far this is and all that, where I'm gonna need to cut. And I am gonna measure, and I also need to measure and see the distance, how far in I need to cut to the trunk. Fits all the way around. Went a little oversized, but I wanted it to, I didn't want to mess with this too much. So overall, good fit. Most people only have to do a section about this big because the wing right is right there, but you know, autocross rules are not always the most logical. So anyway, I think it's gonna work out pretty good for us. Like I said, we can still open and close the trunk. So we are good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and mount this trunk once and for all, try to line it back up, and then we will be good to get some actual pictures of this thing fully mounted. All right, so I wanted to add this little tip in before the video went out, so this is kind of last minute, but I was doing some research on the angle, or the angle of attack for this dual element wing, and I wanted to find out whether the CFD numbers were based off of like an angle like this, including the front main element and this. If it was just the front main element, or sorry, just the dual element, the second element, and then I also wanted to make sure what degree of angle of attack the main element had with the dual element profile on there as well. So anyway, after finding out some, basically, so normally you would measure from the cord length, but for an approximate and to keep it consistent every single time, basically what you're gonna do is just measure, just lay something flat over the leading edge of the wing and the trailing edge of the wing, and then use an angle finder and just lay it right here, and that'll get you where you need. So this wing is supposed to be set up at 0 to slightly trail or leading edge up. So like 0 to like -1 would be ideal for this main element with the dual element kit. So what I have right now is I have it zeroed out on the main element, and then I have 40 degrees on the secondary element. And again, you just measure the secondary element, same as the main, just lay something straight across the leading edge and the trailing edge, and that'll get you a close enough proximity. So that's going to be my starting point for autocross, and I just wanted to give you guys some of that information because I definitely looked around for it on the internet and finally had to go to Grassroots Motorsports and just ask someone. Nine Lives Racing wing installed on the Miata. So next up, I have the parts ordered for all the turbo kit. Now it's just a waiting game. Once we get those parts in, hopefully we can move pretty fast, because I want to find a good day or a good weather day, go take this thing out and actually see how it drives. I'm really excited. Thanks for following along on this project, and thanks guys. So make sure you like and subscribe, share the new channel, all that. I think we're gonna do, we're gonna have a little bit more growth, I think, than the old channel. So thanks guys.